Dr. Peter Kotlar, a Slovak physician, government commissioner and MP, has made a claim that all 34 analysed batches of Pfizer and Moderna vaccines contain dangerously high levels of DNA, potentially transforming recipients into, and I kid you not, genetically modified organisms. Hi, I'm Patrick Christys and this is GBN Originals. Now look, hey, before you dismiss this as some kind of fringe theory, let me tell you that Dr. Kotlar isn't just shouting into the void. He's taken his findings straight to the top, informing US Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the FBI Director and the US Attorney General. This isn't just a Slovak issue anymore, no, it's gone global. But here's where it gets quite concerning, really. Dr. Kotlar is suggesting that this DNA could integrate into human nuclear DNA, effectively turning vaccinated individuals into genetically modified organisms. Now, he isn't just some random bloke off the street. He's a government-appointed investigator into Slovakia's COVID-19 response, and he's not alone in his concerns. Let's take a look at what he actually said.
Výsledok analýzy. Vážená verejnosť a vedecká obec. Výsledky analýzy všetkých, opakujem, všetkých analyzovaných šarží dokázali, že v každej jednej ampule sa nachádza enormne vysoké množstvo DNA, vektor, ktorý kóduje kazetu pre syntézu S-proteínu, ak nie aj iné proteíny. Takmer v rovnakom množstve ako mRNA sa tam nachádza teda aj DNA. V 3 prípadoch je dokonca obsah DNA vyšší ako mRNA. To už ani nemožno považovať za vakcínu mRNA. Na princípe mRNA. Tento genetický kód pre syntézu S-proteínu, táto informácia uložená v tejto DNA, je v porovnaní s mRNA stabilná, vie sa integrovať do ľudskej jadrovej DNA a následne sa takýto ľudský organizmus stáva, nebojím sa povedať oficiálne, geneticky modifikovaným organizmom. Geneticky modifikovaný organizmus je organizmus, ktorého genetický materiál bol úmyselne zmenený.
So, while Dr. Kotlar is sounding the alarm, health officials around the world seem to be burying their heads in the sand. They're still peddling the safe and effective line, even as the evidence might be mounting against them. It's like watching a slow-motion car crash and they're refusing to hit the brakes. And speaking of burying heads in the sand, let's move on to our second bombshell of the night. Angela Merkel, remember her, the former German Chancellor? She's been accused of covering up a damning intelligence report that pointed the finger squarely at China for the COVID-19 pandemic. That's right, while we were all locked in our homes, separated from our loved ones, watching our businesses crumble, it seems like the German government was sitting on information that could have changed everything. According to a joint investigation by 2 German newspapers, Germany's Foreign Intelligence Agency, the BND, concluded back in 2020 that there was an 80 to 95% probability that COVID-19 came from a laboratory accident in Wuhan. Not from some poor bloke eating a dodgy bat soup, but actually from that lab. Well, a lab that, might I add, has been the subject of intense scrutiny and speculation since this whole nightmare began. Now, according to those reports, Merkel chose to keep this bombshell under lock and key, and it doesn't stop there. Her successor, Olaf Scholz, apparently continued this cover-up when he took office in 2021. So, let us sink in for a moment. 2 German chancellors, 2 leaders of one of Europe's most powerful nations, allegedly decided that we, the public, didn't deserve to know the truth about the origins of a virus that's turned our world upside down. The BND's findings weren't based on mere speculation. They drew from an array of sources, including public records, data from the Wuhan Institute of Virology, and a German intelligence operation, codenamed SARIMA. This comprehensive analysis led the BND to its high-confidence conclusion about the pandemic's origins, challenging the narrative that had dominated public discourse for years. And let's be honest as well, it echoes various other world leaders who you would imagine are also in a position to know. Trump called it the China virus and has alluded to it being leaked directly from a Wuhan laboratory. And Boris Johnson, our former Prime Minister, also is on record suggesting that the Wuhan lab leak theory is probably the most credible of all. It's almost like they all know something, isn't it? So, What does all of this mean? Well, for starters, it means that while we were being told to follow the science, it seems that our leaders, some of them anyway, were more interested in following their own agendas and possibly not upsetting China. It means that crucial information about the origins of COVID-19 was potentially withheld from the public for years, and it means that we need to start asking some very serious questions about transparency, accountability, and trust in our governments. But perhaps most importantly, it means that China has some explaining to do as well. If these reports are true, if there really was a lab leak in Wuhan, then the Chinese government needs to be held accountable, don't they? I mean, good luck with that, by the way. But we're talking about a catastrophe of global proportions here. So millions of people died, economies were in tatters, the world changed forever, and for what? A lab accident that could have been prevented. What's to stop it happening again if they don't face any accountability? What is to say that this wasn't deliberate all along? But we do have now a growing body of evidence that suggests that that official narrative about COVID-19's origins and the safety of the vaccines might be about as reliable as a chocolate teapot. The revelation of this suppressed German intelligence report marks a significant turning point in our understanding of the COVID-19 pandemic's origins and the political response to it. Can you also remember that when people were being cancelled for fake news over COVID? They're being cancelled for fake news over vaccines. You were demonised and ostracised and in some cases sacked, really, for daring to suggest that maybe this virus came from that laboratory over there that specialises in viruses like this and not that wet market over there where someone's eating a funky bat. And you were told things like, oh my gosh, you've got to wear this mask for your own protection. If you don't take this vaccine now, you're killing granny and you're killing everyone else's granny. And then here we are, aren't we? It turns out that maybe the fake news all along was coming from our elected officials and indeed some people in the scientific community, and it underscores the complex interplay between science, intelligence, politics and public health that has characterised this global crisis from the start. So where do we go from here? Well, for starters, I think we need full independent investigations into both of these allegations, don't we? We need to know exactly what's in these vaccines, why there's DNA where there shouldn't be. Why is it as well that some of these vaccine manufacturers have been given, as I understand it, total immunity from any potential impending disasters or negative consequences? Why was that? Did someone know something at the time? We need to know what the German intelligence services discovered about the origins of the virus, why this information was apparently suppressed, and what other governments might have known. I think we also need to take a long, hard look, don't we, at our relationship with China and with the pharmaceutical companies that have been calling the shots, quite literally, throughout this pandemic. If it turns out that Chinese negligence, or dare I say it, deceit, led to this global catastrophe, then there should be consequences, serious consequences. But I think one of the most telling things here is what this shows about Chinese influence on the world stage. If, and it is a big if, but if our world leaders, our scientific community, our virologists, etc., knew from the start that this was a lab leak from China, they all chose to cover that up. Why? Does that not say a lot about the power and influence that China has and how scared, actually, a lot of countries and their leaders are of the Chinese regime? But perhaps most importantly, I think we need to demand more generally, don't we, from our leaders. We need more transparency, we need more honesty, we need more accountability. Because if we can't trust our governments to tell us the truth about something as monumental as the origins of a global pandemic, or the contents of vaccines being injected, sometimes metaphorically quite forcefully, into millions of people, then frankly, what can we trust them with? Now, as we grapple with the implications of this news, it's crucial to remember transparency, accuracy is vital, really, combating pandemics and preparing for future health crises, because let's be honest, there will be others going forward. The alleged decision to withhold this information, regardless of the motivations behind it, represents a failure of leadership at a time when clear, honest communication was most needed. It also undermines anything going forward, doesn't it? Let's just say, hypothetically, in 20 years' time, there's another very similar situation. And actually, our governments and our doctors decide to tell us the truth. Will you believe them? Possibly not, because of how we've been treated in the past. So, look, I say to Angela Merkel, Olaf Scholz, to the pharmaceutical companies, frankly, to anyone else who's been sitting on this crucial information about COVID-19, I think the time for secrets is over. The time for truth is now, because only when we have all the facts can we truly begin to heal and move forward from this global tragedy. As we continue to navigate the complex aftermath of COVID-19, this story serves as a stark reminder for the importance of honesty in politics, but also why it's important to be skeptical about what you're being told and, frankly, whether or not you can really believe what your politicians are saying. This has been Patrick Christys. Please don't forget to subscribe to the GB News YouTube channel for more.